Digital marketing has felt nuts recently. Oh, by the way, meet Luna. She's 3 weeks old. If you hear any weird snuffling sounds, then probably her. Probably. But anyway, digital marketing has been crazy recently. Whether it's changes to privacy that has reduced the amount of data we have in Facebook, whether it's GDPR and the changes around personal data handling, or increased competition due to everyone going online because of lockdowns, changes at Google. With everything that's gone on recently, sometimes it can feel really overwhelming. What still works? Where should we be putting our time and energy, and what should we be prioritizing over the next 12 months to significantly increase our website traffic and sales? Well, in this video, we're going to be doing a bit of a roundup of traffic strategies that still work. This is the stuff that you can rely on to bring you traffic over the next 12 months. How do we know that they work? Well, because we've been using them relentlessly with clients on some extremely successful and award-winning campaigns. So we're going to share each of these strategies. We're going to break down how they work, who should be using them, and what to do first if you're going to start using them. So you can use this video as a kind of traffic planning exercise, or you can just watch it for the bants and the cute baby noises, whatever you prefer. Let's go. Okay, and we've broken these traffic strategies into 4 buckets: content marketing, social media, search, and digital PR. Now, before we go running headlong into traffic strategies, it's important to think about which ones are most likely to get traction for your business. Because here's the honest truth. Some traffic channels just don't work for certain types of businesses. And most businesses have a sort of natural affinity with a certain type of traffic source. Now, you hear us talking a lot about the importance of understanding your target audience, and with good reason. But when we're identifying the right traffic channels to target, the main question we want to ask is, how do our target customers find what we're selling? Now, broadly, there are 2 buckets here. We have search and we have interruption. Now, search-focused businesses will be selling something that their customers are searching for. So your customer knows that they have a problem, they go to Google or Amazon or voice search, and they ask for a solution to that problem, or they ask for information about that problem. An example of this might be a plumbing supplies company. If I need a new cistern for a toilet, I'm going to go to Google. I'm not going to open Instagram and hope that I see an ad for a cistern, right? That's not going to happen. So that is an example of a search priority business. The other bucket is interruption or impulse. Now, interruption or impulse businesses are selling something that their audience doesn't know that they need. But when their audience sees it, they can often be nudged into making an impulse purchase. An example would be those little flying drone things with the lights on, which you see all over TikTok at the moment. So nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, do you know what would be really cool? Is one of those flashing drones that I can throw up in the air and it sticks and does all this stuff and I can crush it in my hand. Nobody thinks that, right? But when they're scrolling on TikTok and they see this thing, a proportion of people think, yeah, if that looked anything like it does in the ad, then that would be pretty cool, and they buy it. So that's an example of an interruption or impulse business. Now, a lot of businesses will actually be somewhere along that spectrum. So for example, luxury e-commerce fashion. Some people will be searching for particular brands or products, so there's a search component to that business. And some people will be motivated to buy if they see an influencer wearing it or they see an ad for something, then they can be nudged into an impulse purchase. So a business like that sits somewhere in between the search impulse extremities. So I don't want to labor this point too much, but it's important to identify where your business sits on that spectrum. If you're B2B and you're quite I don't want to use the word boring, but a boring company. By the way, no business is boring once you get to know it. But if you consider yourself to be quite a boring business, then you might be more towards the search side of things than the impulse. Okay, that said, onto the traffic strategies. The first traffic strategy that we're going to talk about today is blogs. Now, you've heard us talk a lot on this channel about the importance of blogging, and that will not change in the next 12 months. Google is still ranking good quality informational content for all sorts of informational keywords, but also for commercial keywords as well. And blogs are a fantastic digital marketing asset that you can build for your business, not only to target search, but also to inform your social and the rest of your content strategy as well. So, what sort of businesses should be using blogs? Well, any business really that either solves a problem for their customers or can entertain, inform, and educate their customers to build a relationship. For example, this video that you're seeing now is based on a blog that we wrote. So we write blogs and they form the kind of pillar that we write and create all of the rest of our content around. And you can use blogs as the basis for your social media content too. But most businesses still don't get much traction with their blogs. And the main reason for that is that they don't approach the topic selection in the right way. So now we're going to do a very simple exercise for a hypothetical business, which Luna chose, all about computer keyboards. And we're going to go through the process of choosing our blog topics. So the first thing that we want to do when we're choosing blog topics is we want to think about our target audience. What's most interesting to them and what are the problems that they are having? If we can write content that is a solution to their problem, we can get them onto our website and we can convince them that we have the solution to whatever issue that they're facing. So let's say that we have an e-commerce store that sells computer keyboards and we want to find a way of driving traffic to it. Ranking for computer keyboards is really competitive. Ad costs are fairly high, so we want to find some effective but low-cost ways of getting visitors onto our site. Well, we can go to answerthepublic.com and type in computer keyboard. It's then going to give us a list of questions that people are asking on Google about this topic. And we can see them here. So we've got 75 different questions. Now, not all of these are relevant to our target customer, and not all of them have any sort of commercial intent. So if we look at a question here like, what are computer keyboard shortcuts? That's not a question being asked by someone who is about to purchase a computer keyboard. They're just looking to improve their efficiency or their productivity. So that might be a blog that we want to write further down the line, but it's not something that we're going to prioritize because it's not likely to lead to money for us. If we search for something like how to clean a computer keyboard, that's kind of further along the line because that's someone that has a dirty keyboard. Now, if we can persuade them that their keyboard is really dirty, or we can say that here's how to clean it, but if it looks like this, then there's probably this bacteria, blah, 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 and you might want to consider a new one, then this is someone who we might be able to nudge into a purchase. But there are some other questions here which are much more commercial intent. So which computer keyboard is best? Which computer keyboard should I buy? This is definitely somebody who is looking to make a purchase. So these are the sorts of blog posts that we want to write and that we want to answer. Now, these are going to be fairly competitive as well. So what we might want to do is niche this further into things like which computer keyboard is best for gaming? Which cheap computer keyboard is best for gaming? What is the most expensive computer gaming keyboard? Phrases like this are like subtopics of this main topic here, which are going to be less competitive and have a much higher commercial intent than some of these other really broad, really informational and fairly non-relevant terms. So you can do exactly this process for your business and your target customers. Think about the 3 phases of the buyer journey. Curiosity, this is people that are just curious. They're fairly unlikely to purchase at this stage, but they indicate that they might have a problem which you'll think and solve. Research, this is people that are getting further along the buying journey. They're starting to compare different options and search for things like which computer keyboard is best. And then intent, this is when they are looking to make a purchase. So people searching for a particular keyboard model might be people who are in the intent phase because they are actually looking to make a purchase. You can then write blog posts on your site targeting people at each of these 3 phases with the right call to action for the person at that stage of the buyer journey. Next traffic strategy we're going to talk about is video. With 82% of all internet traffic being video, it's becoming harder and harder for businesses and brands to ignore having a video strategy. Now, video doesn't have to be as complicated as it might feel. For example, this video is just me talking about a particular blog that we've written and just slightly amending the blog to turn it into a video script and then essentially reading it, adding some examples, showing you some stuff on the screen. You can use exactly the same process in your business. Now, of course, you might need to think about lighting, you might need to think about some sort of set so it looks half decent. But here's the thing, the sooner you start, the sooner you get that stuff right. Your first 20 videos are probably gonna suck. For me, my first 200 videos sucked. In fact, some people would even say they still suck, but we just keep going. But video gets more engagement on social. You can chop it up, you can use it in different formats, you can use it in different places. And it has the great benefit of being search-based as well. So if you have a video on YouTube and someone searches for what it is that you're doing, then you've got a good chance of showing up. And when they watch the video, that engagement, that relationship building piece is that much stronger because they're kind of seeing you face to face. People email me saying, I feel like I know you, Tim. And I'll be honest, it's a bit weird, but it's also good for business. Now, before we continue, I want to talk about something which is really important and will be even more important over the next 12 months. That is landing pages. Now, back in the day, a landing page was a special type of page that you would build for pay-per-click ads or a page that you wanted to target a particular type of traffic to. Today, every single page on your website can, and in many ways should, be a landing page. For example, when your website is properly optimized for search, you are going to be having all sorts of pages bringing in traffic. All sorts of pages are going to rank, and they're going to be landing pages for new cold traffic coming to your website. If you're an e-commerce store, for example, you're going to have people coming to your product category pages, your product pages, your home page, the content pages in your blog or your resources or your knowledge base. If you're a service business, you're going to have visitors coming to the individual service pages on your website as well as your homepage. Now, this poses a challenge for many businesses because their website has not been designed like this. Most people's websites are designed for visitors to follow an orderly queue in a very linear pattern. So people come to the homepage, they read the homepage in its entirety, they then go to a subpage on the site and they move through the site like that. This just doesn't represent modern user behavior. The danger with this approach is that the information on that second page of your site assumes prior knowledge. It assumes that someone has been through your homepage, they understand your business, they've got some context. But that's not how we use the internet. We might land on that subpage first. We have no context about the business. We have no prior information. So that subpage needs to do a great job of setting the scene, giving us all the information that we need to move forward with a purchase or becoming a lead. Another area where this really shows up is in the content on your site. Let's say that you spent all this time making these amazing blogs and they're ranking really well. You're sharing them on social, they're getting loads of engagement. Awesome. But then people go to those pages on your site from search or from social and assume that you are just a content site because they can't see any info about the business. So we need to make sure we're including calls to action, introductions to the business and what you actually do, and we're linking people through to the commercial pages on your site so that they can go through and make a purchase or become a lead or whatever. Let's go back to our computer keyboard business as an example. So let's say that you've ranked a blog post on how to clean a computer keyboard and you've got some tips on how to do it, and you say something like, if your computer keyboard looks like this, it's probably got more bacteria than the inside of a public toilet. Now, if you make that post really compelling, you might be able to persuade someone to purchase a new keyboard. But if you just give them how to clean it tips, they're going to look at those tips, say, great, I know how to clean my keyboard, go and clean it, and then that's it. All you're doing is you're paying the server costs to give Google information to give to people free of charge. There is no benefit to you at all. You are just sending your staff out into the world to just help people with no expectation of anything back. And by the way, if you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to our channel. We normally post three new videos a week. Also, drop us a note in the comments. Luna really wants to know, what is your top digital marketing priority over the next 12 months? Next traffic channel is social media. Now, if you'd have told me back in 2014 that most businesses would still be struggling to get to grips with social media, honestly, I would have been devastated. This has been a problem for so many businesses in so many markets for so long, and yet so few are any closer to solving the social media problem than they were 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. But social media is here to stay, and the time people are spending on social media is only going in one direction. That's a clue. That's the clue, by the way. Now, one reason that businesses fail on social media is that their audience just isn't in the right frame of mind for the content that they're posting. Now, I wanted to think of an example business that we could use to illustrate this problem, and I wanted to come up with a difficult one. So, we are going to set up a hypothetical exposure ninja colonoscopy consultancy. Yes, colonoscopy. Now, nobody goes onto Facebook to see posts about colonoscopy. People don't scroll their Instagram feed hoping to see a colonoscopy influencer. That is not a thing. And yet most colonoscopy practices would post information about their service. An offer might be a free consultation, and they might talk about this on their socials. Now, using this extreme example helps us to understand why this approach doesn't work. If you are struggling to get traction with your social posts, then one technique you can use is to take a step back from the solution that you offer and instead focus on the problem that you are solving. So let's say that Ninja Colonoscopy, for example, stopped talking about colonoscopy and instead looked at what's the problem we're trying to solve. The problem we're trying to solve is people with gut health issues. So let's make ourselves an authority, an influencer, if you will, on gut health. Let's share tips about different nutrition types. Let's share tips about common conditions and symptoms of those conditions. Let's share inspiring and educational stories from people that have overcome those conditions, because that is the stuff that people go on social media for. They go on social media to be entertained, informed, and educated. Another reason that brands fail on social media is that they choose their channels based on their own preference rather than the preference of their customers. This is particularly acute when a younger marketing manager will assume that the brand needs to be visible on Instagram or TikTok because that's where they themselves spend their time, rather than looking at where their audience is. Now, if their audience is much older than they are, they might be spending much more time on Facebook and LinkedIn, where the largest user group is actually 46 to 55. So it's really important that we choose our social channels based on where our audience is rather than where we are. The third reason that businesses fail on social is because their content just sucks, right? It's purely self-promotional. It's all about the business. There's nothing to entertain. They're not really speaking the language. This is like the person at the business networking event that just pushes their card into everyone's hands and just talks about themselves. What you really want to do on social is provide the sorts of stuff that people are looking to go onto social for. Let's look at a couple of examples. Here we can see a post from Gymshark, who have done a fantastic job of their social. It is the sort of content that people go onto social for. It's a well-taken picture, it's fitness-related content, and this person is wearing Gymshark clothes, so there is a relevance to the brand. Now, of course, not every business is as social first as Gymshark. We also have businesses like Teamwork, who sell a boring product, project management software, to an audience which doesn't necessarily go to social for that type of content. But what Teamwork do is, rather than just talking about boring stuff, they share tips, easily digestible tips, not in massive detail, but digestible enough that you might follow them if you're interested in productivity, time management, project management, that type of thing. So really, those are two of the main types of content that you're probably going to be posting. Either pictures or videos of your product in action, or tips, informative, educational type stuff, if you don't suit pictures of your product in action, because pictures of Teamwork in action, that is not going to be fun. Now, it wouldn't be an Exposure Ninja video if we didn't talk about SEO. The reason we ninjas love SEO so much is if we could choose anywhere to be seen by potential customers, it would be right where they are searching for what we sell. That old question, if you could put a burger van anywhere, where would you put it? The right answer, of course, is in front of a hungry crowd. That is exactly what search is. There is no better place in the history of marketing to be found than at the top of Google when somebody is searching for what you sell. So SEO is a really important channel. It is today as important as it has been for the last 5 or 10 years. Now, logic tells us that at some point, text search is going to be replaced by something. People thought it was voice search. That hasn't panned out. And in fact, with an estimated 1 trillion searches per year, Google is more dominant than ever. It also has more data on what people want and when than any other entity in history, which means that whatever comes after text-based search, Google has a fair crack at being the one to beat in that new world. Now, when it comes to SEO, there's no two ways about it. It is more competitive today than it was 2, even 1 year ago. It's a zero-sum game. There are 10 spots on that front page. If you want to be found there, you're going to be knocking someone else off. They're going to be trying to knock you off. This is a competition. That means that the threshold, the standard you're going to have to work to and to play against if you want top ranking is higher than ever. So what are the basics that you need in place for SEO today? Well, you need to be nailing your metas. These are the page titles and meta descriptions, those things that are visible on the search results page on Google. They are key to getting people to clicking on your ad. Your page titles are key to getting visibility for your target keywords. If you don't put your metas in, Google's going to replace them with something automatically generated that may or may not be good, but the downside is that you don't get control over what those searchers see on that first page of Google. You need excellent content on every page. If you're an e-commerce business, you are sick of me banging on about content on your product category pages, but you need it. You need great content on your product pages as well, your homepage, every single page on your site that you want to get ranked. If you're a service business, those service pages, they need to be longer, more in-depth, and more useful than ever before. There is no two ways about it. You need an excellent user experience on your site. Go on, I dare you, try ranking a crappy site today. It is more difficult than ever. And of course, a big component of that is website speed. You can use Test My Site to work out what your website speed is and to get tips on how to improve it. It's no exaggeration to say there are very few businesses, potentially no businesses, that cannot benefit from being found at the top of Google for their main target searches. So commit to making this year the year that you get to grips with SEO. If I could choose any traffic source to drive high quality, high commercial intent, profitable traffic, it would be getting ranked on Google. Being seen where people are searching for exactly what you do is the holy grail of digital marketing and will be for the foreseeable future. We have a book called How to Get to the Top of Google, which shows you exactly how to get to the top of Google. It's really well reviewed on Amazon. It's one of the best-selling SEO titles out there, and we're giving it away free of charge. All you need to do to get your copy completely free of charge is to click the link in the description, follow the instructions. It's that simple. So go and get your free copy of How to Get to the Top of Google today. Next up, Google Ads. Now, Google Ads are still commonly misunderstood and treated almost as a second priority against organic search. Almost as if you can rank organically, great. If you can't, then you've got to start shoveling cash into Google. But actually, SEO plus PPC is typically higher yielding than just SEO alone. Firstly, because PPC provides data that SEO just cannot give us. For example, the conversions by keyword. This is really useful. But secondly, because having a strong and productive PPC account gives you insulation against any overdependence on SEO. Today, PPC is more expensive than ever. Now, loads of us inside Exposure Ninja were asked to make our predictions at the start of 2021 about what was going to happen in the coming year. My prediction, I'm proud to say, was that cost per click from Google Ads would go higher than ever as a result of increased competition due to lockdown. And that is exactly what's happened. In some spaces in 2021, cost per click has increased 35 to 40%. This means that if you're going to play with Google Ads, you absolutely need to bring your A game. Your landing page needs to be better than ever. The offer that you're making to visitors needs to be more compelling. It needs to stand out against what else you're competing against in those search results. The targeting needs to be more on point than ever. Spray and pray. You don't want to be doing that for too long. Interestingly though, these days it's very rare to see a really poorly optimized Google ad campaign at scale because businesses just can't justify spending a lot of money on something that isn't well optimized. This also means that in more markets than ever, professional Google ad management is the cost of entry. We used to see lots and lots of self-managed campaigns, but today far fewer self-managed campaigns are getting to profitability just because the competition is so high. And if you're competing against professionally managed campaigns and you're trying to do it yourself in your spare time, that is getting harder and harder than ever. Now, it is still possible, and every so often we come across a business where the owner or the marketing manager has been running their PPC ad campaign for years. They know it in intimate detail, and in some cases, they are the best person to run that campaign with some outside perspective to just identify areas that they might want to test. But this is becoming a smaller and smaller pool. It's most likely that if you're going to be scaling PPC ads, you're going to need some sort of professional management. That is great for companies like Exposure Ninja who offer Google ad management, but of course this makes it more competitive and more expensive for the brands that are running those ads. The final traffic channel that we're going to be talking about today is digital PR. Now, we've been using digital PR for clients for years at Exposure Ninja, and we've had clients featured in all the top tier publications and on live TV and radio as well. But here's the mistake that brands make with digital PR. They view it as a way of getting fame and celebrity. Now, today more than ever, digital PR is rarely a way to get fame and celebrity, simply because the news cycle is so fast. You might be able to piggyback on a trending topic and get some coverage all over the place, but within a few hours, the latest thing has come out, or there's been another Downing Street party, or there's some political or health scandal, which has covered and buried everything that's gone before it. So digital PR is, as much as it has ever been, mainly a search activity. i.e., digital PR is used to get links to influence rankings as much as anything else. Now, just like everything, digital PR is more competitive than ever. There are more businesses and brands using digital PR and trying to use it. But there are also more publications needing content, more journalists and writers looking for sources for stories. So whilst it's more competitive, there's also a bigger pie for everyone to choose from. Now, there are two ways of getting coverage through digital PR: outbound and inbound. Outbound mainly involves pitching, so finding the right publications for you and pitching them. Let's look at an example of how we might find the right publication for our fictional keyboard e-commerce store. So the first thing that we would do is we would head over to Google and we might search for something like keyboard reviews. And what we're really looking for is we're looking for the sort of publications that publish content that our audience is most likely to be reading. Now, what we can see here is we've got a mixture of computer and musical keyboards. So we want to make sure that we're getting the right publications, obviously. So let's see this one here. This is rtings.com, and we're going to just quickly open this tab and have a look at the sort of content that's ranking. What we're really looking for is like the news and the journalist kind of led sites. Now, Music Radar is a musical site, so we're not going to go for that. Wired.com would also be another one to go for. TechAdvisor.com would be a good one to look at as well. Now, what we're looking for here is we're looking for the sort of publications that's going to publish content about our business. So if you're niche, if you're B2B, then the sites that you're going to be looking for coverage on are mostly trade journal type sites here. Now, we can see here, this looks like the sort of site that we want to get our content published on. It also looks like it's going to be an affiliate site because we can see links to Amazon. And usually when people do that, that's because that is the business model of this site. Now, if we wanted to contact this publication and try to get our keyboards featured in their next list, we would go and find the writer of this article, Nicholas Di Giovanni, and we'd have a look to see if there's any contact details for Nicholas here. Now, there aren't, so what we might do is we might search for him on Twitter. Now, I can't see him in the search results for Twitter, but I can see him on LinkedIn. So I know that I could message him via LinkedIn to say, hey, we've got this thing, or he might have some contact details on LinkedIn. So it actually doesn't look like he's a particularly active user on LinkedIn, so not the best example, but we can search for him, we can find him. Let's have a look on Tom's Hardware. So we can see here, we've got the best gaming keyboards of 2021. This looks like a good article. We would love to be in the 2022 version of this. So what we can do is we can contact these people. We can see if we can find contact details for them. If we can't, so if they've got kind of unusual names like this is actually great because we have more chance of finding them. Here we go. Here is his Twitter bio. Great, so we can contact him, we can direct message him on Twitter. Doesn't have a huge number of followers. One thing that you might want to do is start engaging with their posts, sharing them as well to build up a bit of a relationship, to get on his radar so that when you do make the pitch, there's a bit of recognition there already. So another thing you're going to want to do before you make your pitch is you're going to want to make sure that the content topic you're pitching matches the publication. So for example, we wouldn't want to pitch an idea about the best gaming keyboards to a site that just talks about gaming. If they don't talk about gaming hardware, then pitching them on gaming keyboards just makes us feel a bit tone deaf. So we want to make sure that they are publishing the sort of content that we get featured in. So one little trick that you can use to make sure you're pitching people on the right sort of content is you can use this type of search, so site Tom's Hardware, and then we're going to type our keyword in there, keyboards, and we can now see all the articles that are about keyboards on Tom's Hardware. So this helps us to understand the sort of content they're publishing. We know that they're going to be writing updated versions of these articles for 2022, 2023, so this can be something that we keep going back to them and pitching on. So that is outbound digital PR. The other option for digital PR is inbound, and using inbound journalist requests. Now, you can use a service like Help a Reporter Out or Response Source, or you can just use Twitter. And there are two hashtags that we often use for this type of thing. Hashtag journal request and hashtag PR request. Now, as you can see, it's 11 a.m. and we've already had 140 tweets using hashtag journal request. Let's have a look at some of them to see how relevant they might be to our hypothetical business. Anyone in the UK spending Christmas alone in isolation due to a positive COVID test? Please get in touch if you'd be happy to share your thoughts, published on the Mail. Great, that would be a good link. We could find someone in the office who is going to be spending Christmas alone. Really sad for them, but great for us if we get a link. Health experts needed, how to help our partner get ready for first-time fatherhood, thought leadership articles. So you can see that there's some really good top-tier publication journalists here looking for sources for their articles. The approach to take, if you find something that's relevant for you, here's one for the Daily Mail 21 minutes ago. Loads of people have variable rate mortgages. This doesn't have to be about the business at all. But if you say, you contact Amelia and say, I'm on a variable rate mortgage and I work for exposureninja.com, and she writes up the article, she might put your job description or the company that you work for in, and then you've got a chance of getting a link. So there's loads of stuff here which can work really well for your business. You just have to be smart about how you use the angles, and you're not going to get the sort of topical relevance that you might do with outbound PR because you're just making do with what's already there. The benefit of this sort of approach though is you can get some links and you can get some features on really high authority publications. So there are two hashtags that we use, hashtag journal request and hashtag PR request. And when we look on Twitter to see what sort of tweets are being posted, we can see so far it's 11 a.m. There's already been 140 tweets here. So there's a lot of posts from journalists that are looking for sources for their stories. And if we have a look at some of the tweets and who they're by, we can see that there are some really top tier publications here. Anyone in the UK spending Christmas alone in isolation due to a positive COVID test? Please get in touch if you'd be happy to have your thoughts published on the Mail. Great. So if there's anyone in our office or at home who has had a positive COVID test, we might be able to get our business featured in the Mail. Sad for them, but great for us because we might potentially get a link or a mention in a high tier publication. So you can see that whilst you can't be as selective with the topics that you get coverage about using inbound requests, what it does give you access to is those real top tier publications which can be much more difficult to get coverage in through outbound. So there you have it, 6 fairly bulletproof traffic strategies to test over the next 12 months for your business. Which do you think are most relevant to you, and which are the ones that you're most excited about testing? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. Thanks for your help, Luna.